Be honest with yourself when I ask you this question. How much fat are you holding right now? Are you at 40% where your stomach's protruding and you can see it through your clothes, nowhere near visible abs? Maybe you're at 30%, a tad bit leaner, but you still don't fit quite how you want to in clothes. Maybe you're at 20% where you're a tad bit leaner, but you still don't have visible abs yet. This is where most people find themselves. It's not extremely uncomfortable, but at the same time, it's also not quite where you want to be. Then there's 10%. You're lean, you're athletic, you have a visible six pack, you fit well in clothes, you feel good, you're confident, and you have a physique that turns heads no matter where you go and take off your shirt. And here's me now at 7 to 8% body fat, which isn't the most sustainable place to be, but being at 10% is. Being much lower than 10% is pretty difficult for most people to sustain, and even myself included. And I don't even plan on staying here for very much longer. But like I said, 10% is achievable and sustainable for pretty much anyone in any situation. And the reality of it all is that getting to and maintaining 10% body fat with visible abs year round is not as difficult as you think. If you want to strive to get to 7 to 8% body fat, by all means go for it. Just know that what you're striving for is not going to be something that you're going to be able to maintain for the rest of your life, whereas 10% is. 10 to 12% is really that sweet spot for most people to maintain year round because you feel good, you look good, it's healthy, and you're still able to enjoy life while being at a low body fat percentage. So in this video, I'm going to be going over exactly how you can get to that sweet spot of 10 to 12%, not only get there, but also be able to maintain that for the rest of your life. For most of you, getting there is 100% possible within the span of 3 to 4 months. But you have to understand these three concepts that I'm going to be going over in this video that I learned from the last 8 to 9 years of my own experience of trial and error and focusing on my physique, as well as coaching tons and tons of other men over the last year and a half. First, you're going to need the right mindset. What self-limiting beliefs do you have right now that are preventing you from getting to where you want to be? What sort of lifestyle do you have to commit yourself to in order to stay motivated and consistent? What daily habits and traits does the version of you with abs and maintaining them year-round have? What sort of things do they do on a day-to-day basis? How do they present themselves? How do they keep the promises they make to themselves? Number 2 is nutrition. How much food exactly should you be eating? What types of food should you be eating? How often should you be eating? How do you still go out to eat on time to time with friends and family and not have to worry about losing progress? And last but not least is training. How do you structure your workout program to shred unwanted body fat and pack on muscle at the same time? Let's first get into mindset. And for whatever reason, so many people only focus on the physical aspects of getting in shape and completely neglect the mental. If you want to be the type of person who has abs year round, then you need to first possess the traits of someone who actually does. Do they skip workouts? Do they cheat on their diet without a game plan of getting right back on track? Do they stay up all night on weekends? Do they drink? Do they party? Do they eat out without having a proper plan in place so they don't ruin progress? Understand the version of yourself that you are now and the version you become when you get your six pack and maintain it year round will not be the same. Your discipline, your mindset, your resilience will all be at a completely new level once you get there. And having those traits will only positively translate to every single other aspect of your life. Once you have the alignment part down, you need to next understand that the beginning is always going to be the hardest part and that things do get easier with time, because think about it this way. Humans are creatures of habit. Getting abs is going to require you to adopt certain habits that you probably do not have right now, which means that you are going to have to break out of your current habits and build up new ones, which is a difficult fucking process. Think of the beginning as a transition phase. And once you fully transition from your current habits into the ones that are actually going to get you to and maintain abs year round, you won't want to break out of that new routine because again, humans are creatures of habit. The more you do something, it becomes a part of you. Think about it this way. When you take some time off for work, or maybe you went on a vacation or something, and you're used to getting up early for work, but during that vacation you weren't, then it comes time to go back to work. You have to start waking up early again. That initial stage of waking up early is going to be difficult, but once you stick to it for a couple weeks, it's going to feel like it's normal. And it's the exact same here with developing the habits required in order to get and maintain abs. It's going to take some time, but the quicker you take action and adopt to that new routine, the easier it's going to become and the quicker you're going to be able to get to where you want to be. Start by literally writing down daily non-negotiables that revolve around your goal. Literally write them down and have them in front of you at all times, and make sure that you check them off throughout the day as you complete them. For me, my daily non-negotiables are my daily fasted cardio. I have my meals prepped for the day. I hit a workout if it's for training day. I get my steps in and I go to bed at 9 p.m. sharp. However, you can have the best mindset in the world and be taking action every single day, but if you're taking action into things that actually don't drive progress, then you will never get your abs to show. And this is where the nutrition side of things comes in. This is where 99% of people mess up, so you're going to want to pay really close attention here. I'm going to break down everything for you as simple as possible because really it is that simple. Big mistake a lot of people make is that they think eating healthy is all you need to do in order to get abs. Sure, it can be a step in the right direction, but it's certainly not going to get you all the way there. Because if eating healthy was the trick, then so many more people would have abs. So first, let's figure out exactly how many calories you should be doing. First, what you need to do is go online and search up TDE calculator. Put in your stats and it's going to give you your rough maintenance calories. Next, all you want to do is subtract 300 to 500 calories from the number it gives you, and that's going to be your starting deficit. But as your body adapts to this amount of calories, weight loss starts to slow down, maybe even hit a plateau. Every single time that happens, you want to drop your calories by another 200 to 300. Only do this on an as needed basis, because the last thing you want to happen is for you to cut your calories down too quickly and crash your metabolism. Now that you have your calories, let's get into your macros. When it comes to protein, the best rule of thumb is to do 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein. But if you're at, say, above 25% body fat, I would recommend sitting towards the lower echelon of that range, because you don't really need to be having a bunch of extra protein for the weight that you're going to lose anyways. So for fat intake, a good rule of thumb is 0.3 to 0.5 grams per pound of body weight. Same concept applies. If you're at a higher body fat percentage, be on the lower echelon of that. Be at 0.3 grams per pound of body weight. Really, all you got to do with carbs is just fill in the rest of your calories. It's that simple. I've made more in-depth videos on how to get your macros exactly, but this covers all the basics that you needed to know. With carbs, it's always best to get a majority of your sources from complex carb sources like rice, oats, whole wheat bread, or other whole grains. You can throw in some sugar and some sweets here and there, but just keep in mind that they're not the most healthy thing for you. They're not going to fill you up. They're going to cause crashes and spikes in your blood sugar, which are going to make you even more hungry. So it's best to stay away from them as much as you can, but it's still okay to have them every once in a while. So now that you have your calories and macros, let's get into more specifics on the actual foods that you should be eating. A good 80 to 90% of your nutrition should be coming from single ingredient whole foods, because they're full of vitamins and minerals and they're going to fill you up. You can still have processed foods from time to time, but again, just keep in mind that they're not going to fill you up. They're just going to increase your cravings. They're very calorically dense and it's easy to overeat them. So keep those to about 10 to 20% of your nutrition. Some good protein sources that I recommend are chicken, egg whites, lean cups of beef, ground turkey, or even protein powder is not a bad choice. For carbs, you want to have some of the things that I mentioned before: oats, egg whites, whole wheat bread, or other whole grains, maybe even some vegetables and some extra fiber. Just focus on things that are going to fill you up and are full of vitamins and minerals. For fats, you really want to avoid saturated fats as much as possible. Good sources can be egg yolks, avocados, natural nut butters, but you have to keep in mind that fats are calorically dense, so you really have to track and weigh them to make sure you're not overeating when you have your fats. So here's a complete shredding diet summary for you to take a screenshot and implement for yourself. Now let's get into the training side of things. So I'm going to first go over the high-level overview approach that you should be implementing when it comes to your training in the gym, and kind of tie this back into how this is going to help you get and maintain your abs. But first, the biggest mistake I see people make when they're in the gym is not training with the right intensity. They're leaving so many gains on the table by stopping their sets early, not training anywhere close to failure, stopping at arbitrary rep ranges, and all you're doing is really wasting your time at the end of the day. Is it better than nothing? Yes, because you are building up the habit of getting to the gym on a consistent basis, but I would not expect much, if any, muscle growth if you're not training anywhere close to failure. So the intensity approach that you want to be following that works best for me and all my clients is do your warm-up sets, then jump up to a top set of 8 to 12 reps, but you want to hit complete failure within that rep range of 8 to 12. If you're able to hit failure outside of that rep range, what you want to do is increase the weight by 5 to 10 pounds. Then if you can't get outside of that rep range going to complete failure, you want to stick with that same weight until you can and just rinse and repeat. This is called progressive overload, and this is how you build muscle, which in turn is going to help you build your abs. So how does this translate into getting and maintaining abs? Well, you have to understand that when you do almost every single exercise and push yourself, you're using your abs as stability. So when you build muscle everywhere, in turn, you're going to be building your abs, especially when it comes to doing heavy compound movements with a lot of load. But I also do recommend throwing a little bit of ab exercises at the end of your workouts as sort of burnout sets. So what I like to do is literally just 2 sets of hanging leg raises going to complete failure for burnouts. I recommend that once you get above 15 to 20 reps, that you start adding weight to these exercises and progressive overloading them just like you would with any other exercise. Because at the end of the day, your abs are a muscle and you want to build them up similar to how you build your other muscles. If you really want to build up your abs more than your other muscles, then you could hit your abs first, but I always recommend prioritizing your main muscle groups, because when I mentioned earlier, your abs are going to be stimulated when you're stabling your core in pretty much every single exercise. So here's a brief summary of the training approach and intensity I recommend that if you want to build muscle while being able to lose fat at the same time. Now let's get into cardio. A big mistake a lot of people make is that they prioritize their cardio over their weight training, and if you do that for a long enough period of time, end up losing a lot of weight, all you're going to be doing is finding yourself in that skinny fat phase where you don't have abs, you don't have a lot of muscle, and you're nowhere close to where you want to be. You're just like a smaller version of your previous self. The type of cardio I do for myself and always recommend is doing 20 to 30 minutes of zone 2 fasted cardio every single morning. You're not necessarily going to burn more fat by doing it fasted, but what What you are doing is increasing your insulin sensitivity, improving your digestion, which in turn is going to help you keep a tighter waist the better your digestion is. And on a side note, make sure you are fully hydrated when you do your fasted cardio in the morning. Fasted just means that you don't eat anything. That does not mean you don't drink water. Make sure you get your water in before you do your cardio. Another thing is make sure it's not too intense, because if you start doing really high intensity cardio sessions first thing in the morning when your body is completely depleted, it's going to increase the chances of you losing muscle significantly. So as I mentioned earlier, start with 20 to 30 minutes of zone 2 fasted cardio, and on an as needed basis, increase it by 5 to 10 minutes every time you need to. And here's a quick summary of the cardio approach I recommend for you. And the last thing I want to mention is what happens when you're extremely hungry, you're extremely fatigued, your calories are already super low, you're doing a lot of cardio, and weight is still not coming off. What do you do in this situation? If you're in this situation, the best approach may not be to continue to push more, because all you're doing is digging yourself deeper and deeper into that hole. What I recommend you do here is do a 2 to 4 week diet break where you let your fatigue and hunger levels come back to baseline without gaining any weight back. How you do this is simply just bring your calories back up to maintenance for a little bit, lower your cardio back down to whatever it was when you started. And when you do this properly, you will not gain any weight back and you'll start feeling better eventually. And once you do feel better, your energy's back, your hunger's back at baseline, your metabolism's ready to start burning fat again. So if you have all of these things in place, make sure you have the daily non-negotiables set, you put in the work, you be consistent. Over the next 90 to 120 days, depending on where you're at right now, there's absolutely no reason why you will not be able to get your abs to show and be able to maintain them year round by making slow and steady progress, making sure that it is done in a sustainable way.